Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 6 things that we learned from Bradford City 1, Doncaster Rovers 1. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try to 80 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed. If you haven't already, with that post notification bell on, it's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below on our 6 talking points from today's video. Don't forget as well to go check out the matchday vlog that was uploaded from yesterday's game. The link will be down in the description down below. I'm not too sure why YouTube isn't really pushing it. Don't know if I need to change the thumbnail. I'm not really too sure. But unfortunately, it is a solo episode this week. Hopefully, we'll have a guest for Saturday's game against Accrington Stanley. Obviously, that video will be coming out on Sunday. But today, we're going to be discussing 6 talking points from last night's 1-1 draw. A very frustrating draw. We were very poor. Doncaster poor, but probably slightly better. They did play some decent football, especially in that first half, but it was a game that was really ruined by the referee, and he is our first talking point of today's video. And I'm sure you can all guess that Lydon will be receiving a red box. He was absolutely terrible. I've never seen a refereeing performance so incompetent, and it's not the first time this season we've had Lydon, and his refereeing ability has been really poor. We had him on New Year's Day away at Crewe Alexandra, and he was really poor in that one, dishing out yellow cards left, right and centre. And again, in this one against Doncaster, both sides can agree, both the home fans and the away fans were singing, "You're not fit to referee." You must be doing a very bad job if you've got both sets of supporters going against you. And the amount of yellow cards, I think there's 11 yellow cards in total. There wasn't a single bad foul in the game. Some of the bookings were understandable. I think Clark Adore and their left back Maxwell, for examples like that, they were stopping counter-attacks and they were mandatory bookings, but McDonald put in a perfect slide challenge, got booked for it. Their player elbows Sam Stubbs in the face, and Sam Stubbs is the one who gets booked for it. That was probably the most ludicrous decision of the night. Obviously, there's a big controversy surrounding Doncaster's goal. Is it onside? Is it offside? At first viewing, for me, I thought it was 2 yards offside because I didn't see Kieran Kelly. Looking back at it again, it's very close. I'm not going to lie to you. The lino is really far behind play, which obviously doesn't help. The eye follow angle, again, doesn't really help too much because it's not perfectly in line. I certainly think if it was in the Premier League and you get the VAR, the lines are definitely out and it's very tight. I still think now it is still slightly offside because Molyneux's leaning forwards and Kelly is leaning back. Well, he's not leaning backwards, but he's not really leaning, whereas Molyneux, he's got his head down ready to run forward. So I do think it is probably still slightly offside, but I'm certainly not as confident as I was at the time because obviously I didn't see Kieran Kelly at the time. But Doughty was just incompetent at his job. He wanted to make the game all about him, and how there was only 4 minutes added on at the end of the game was absolutely criminal. Doncaster, understandably, were time wasting. I mean, they were doing it at 0-0, but especially when they went 1-0 up in that second half, they were time wasting at every opportunity. The goalkeeper was taking 30 seconds to a minute for every goal kick or free kick, anything like that, and the referee wasn't hurrying up. He was saying he was going to be dealt with and all that sort of stuff. And how did he deal with it? He gave him a little tick box by booking their goalkeeper with 10 seconds left on the clock for actually not taking as long as what he'd done on the previous 8 goal kicks. And that is the frustration with these referees. What is the point in waiting until there's 10 seconds to go to book the goalkeeper? It's absolutely ludicrous, some of these decisions. The goalkeeper should have been booked inside the first 10 minutes. There were a number of other players like the left back who had already been booked, and don't get me wrong, had a really good game. I certainly think he was Doncaster's best player, but he should have been sent off as well because he'd already been booked and he was taking about 30 seconds for every single throw-in. I just don't understand the officials, and it's so frustrating. I would genuinely watch us get played off the park and lose 5-0 than have a frustrating game ruined by the officials, because there's nothing more infuriating than a referee who is simply incompetent at his job. And it's not the first time we've seen this specific referee have a bad game. I will never ever complain about Darren Drysdale again while Lee Doughty is still officiating, because every time we have him, he's absolutely awful, and it simply had to have a red box there. I could rant about him for absolutely ages because he was absolutely terrible, and unfortunately we start today's video on a little bit of a negative. Moving on then to box number 2, I have gone with a green box for Adam Wilson. He finally got an opportunity under Graham Alexander. He's barely kicked a football since our new manager came in, and around, was it the November period, and he showed what we've really been missing. Adam Wilson played like he had a point to prove, and I thought he was excellent off the bench. Every time he got the ball, he was positive with it, wanted to take players on, wanted to get crosses into the box, was trying to get shots off as well. He got a booking for maybe trying a little bit too hard. He tried to take on a few too many players slightly overplayed the ball and then went lunging in to try and win it back, and he did get a book, and I think that one probably was a yellow card, if I'm being honest with you. Obviously, Doncaster, their players screamed and made a complete meal out of it, but Wilson, I thought, had a really, really positive impact on off the bench. It's interesting because Wilson has barely got a look in off the bench at all. You know, he's not even been in the squad for the majority of the time under Alexander, and Poynton has for the large part, but then last night, obviously, Graham Alexander decided that Wilson was a better option than Poynton. I'm not really too sure why Poynton isn't really getting an opportunity, because he's someone who's got a really, really good passing ability, and I feel like he could have, you know, played that pass in behind for Smith or played that cross into the box for Cook to maybe get us another goal. But I thought Wilson, it was a really, really good opportunity for him, and I think he more than took that. I think he, you know, Doncaster's left back was very, very good, and Wilson really grasped that opportunity with two hands to get at him and take him on, and he got past him on a number of occasions, and maybe sometimes went down a little bit soft, but I thought he had a really, really positive impact on the game. And when we've got so many players in them wide areas, I feel like you've got to prove your worth, really, and I certainly think Adam Wilson did that yesterday. We are going to get onto Tyreek Wright later on in today's video, but I thought Wright and Kavanagh had a really, really poor impact on the game. I was really surprised to see Adore taken out of a position and a system that has really suited him over the last couple of weeks. You know, Adore was excellent throughout February, and he was chucked into central midfield just to shoehorn right into the side, and I didn't really understand that. I don't think Adore particularly impressed playing out of position, but Wilson, I thought, had a really, really positive impact on the game, and I hope we see more from Adam Wilson, because he's proven in the minutes that he's had this season, for the large part, he can be a good player. He's a winger. He's not going to be a 7, 8, 9 or 10 out of 10 every single week, because he wouldn't be playing in League 2 if that was the case. But as long as he's every now and again popping up with good performances, getting goal contributions, which I feel like if Wilson plays, he's going to be able to do so. Obviously, he signed a long-term contract. You know, I think he signed a 3-year deal when we signed him back in August, and he's clearly won for the longer term. You know, we saw the same with Kieran Kelly when he came in last January and didn't really play for the second half of last season. This season, though, he's played quite a lot and he's massively improved. I think he's been excellent, really, under Graham Alexander. Wasn't particularly great last night, but I don't think many players were really above a 6 out of 10. One of them players, though, was Adam Wilson. I thought he had a really positive impact on off the bench, and hopefully he might get a start at the weekend as well, or potentially Adore might go back into his more natural position now that Richie Smallwood is back available. But Adam Wilson, excellent last night and deserves a green box. Moving on then to our third box of today's video, I have gone with a yellow box for Sam Stubbs. Had some good moments in the game, but I feel like also kind of got bullied a little bit by Joe Ironside, and I feel like we did miss Matty Platt a little bit. I feel like if Matty Platt is in the back three, we don't concede that goal yesterday. Yes, Kelly is a little bit deep and potentially plays him onside, but Stubbs goes up for the header against Ironside, and he lost the original header, and Stubbs actually lost quite a lot of headers last night, which is not really something we've seen much of from Sam Stubbs, and I feel like for the large part, he hasn't been too bad when playing in the middle of the back three when you got Tompkinson on the right and Kelly on the left. I certainly think when Stubbs has played with Taylor, it's isolated him a little bit and made him look worse than what he actually is, because Stubbs proved last season he can be a good centre-half at this level, but we know about them balls in behind him, and I feel like Stubbs did get bullied a little bit by Joe Ironside. He's clearly in there to be the physical centre-half. Obviously, you've got Kelly as well, but he's more playing on the wide side, having to defend 1v1 against the likes of Molyneux and also the other Doncaster winger in Hakeem Abdullah. But I feel like Stubbs did have some shaky moments. Don't get me wrong, he still put in some good tackles, some good blocks, and his distribution wasn't too bad. But on the whole, for me, I feel like Stubbs did get bullied a little bit by Joe Ironside. And it's not really a horrendous thing, because Ironside is a good goal scorer at this level and he's a good overall striker. You know, he holds the ball up well, he brings others into play, but Stubbs, I feel like, needed to be a little bit more physical, be a bit more aggressive, and I feel like when Matty Platt is back available for selection, he probably comes straight back into the side for me. I know Alexander is a little bit weird with things like that, where he likes to have consistency and then he'll just make a random change, like Tyreek Wright came into the starting 11 yesterday for no real apparent reason. But Sam Stubbs, for me, I was overall not impressed with his performance yesterday, so that's the reason why I've gone with a yellow box for him. Moving on then to our fourth box of today's video, I've unfortunately gone with the red box for Tyreek Wright. Since he's returned from Plymouth, he's had obviously a couple of injury problems, and I feel like yesterday he just didn't really look interested, while Callum Kavanagh on the other side was equally as poor and wasn't really involved in the game too much, and again, he could easily have this red box. But I've gone with Wright specifically because it feels like we're seeing Dion Pereira 2.0. It feels like we're seeing it again, where the first loan spell for the large part is successful, and now it just doesn't really seem to be working out for Tyreek Wright. And I know he's not played enough football really to judge him too much, but there's a number of players in this squad who are our own players and are here permanently, and they're not really getting the opportunity. Like Wilson prior to yesterday's game, and also like Bobby Poynton, who's barely kicked a football recently. But Wright just comes in and gets the start for no real apparent reason and wasn't really involved in the game. There's a few times where he kind of switched off, and it allowed Doncaster to play through us a little bit easily. I think Wright was obviously playing on the right hand side and was a little bit lucky defensively that he's got someone as good as Brad Halliday on that side, because he was caught out of position slightly and he just didn't really look interested, if I'm being honest with you. And I don't really like saying that about players, and it wasn't just Wright specifically. You know, there were a number of players who were really poor in the game. I think Andy Cook didn't particularly have a great game last night, but again, didn't really have much service, but Andy Cook did miss time a lot of headers, if I'm honest with you. Wright did put a good cross into the box inside the first 10 or 15 minutes, but again, the players weren't able to keep up with him because he's so quick, so sometimes that pace kind of is a little bit of a hindrance to him, and the ball was in a good area, but apart from that, didn't really do anything in the match. His link-up play isn't particularly great. You know, he is more of a direct runner rather than a dribbler. Someone like a Clark Adore is much better at that, and I feel like Wright did have a really poor impact on the game, and we mentioned it when we spoke about Adam Wilson, because we've got so many players in these attacking areas. You know, Tyler Smith seems to be adapting a little bit to play as more of an inside forward now rather than the main striker. You've got Chapman, Wilson, Poynton, Wright. You know, there's a few others that I'm probably missing out on there. Jake Young can certainly play in them areas. There is a number of players that we've got, and you've got to be performing, and Tyreek Wright and Callum Kavanagh simply didn't do that, but especially Tyreek Wright for the expectations that we have of Tyreek Wright, considering how good he was for the large part last season under Mike Hughes. I feel like he has been quite disappointing so far, and again, he's not played too much football, so I don't want to be too harsh on him, but last night it was a disappointing performance from him, and I wouldn't like to see him in the starting 11 at the weekend, because I do think he was really poor, and that's why I've gone with a red box for him. Moving on then to the penultimate box of today's video, I have gone with a green box for Sam Walker. A lot of people yesterday were very, very average, but Sam Walker, I would say, was slightly above that, if I'm honest with you. Can't really do much about the goal. It is just a good finish from Molyneux. It's not the easiest of finishes, but he took it away nicely, and unfortunately Walker couldn't keep another clean sheet. His ability to come for crossing was still very good. You know, there were a few corners that Doncaster had, which I feel like if we had Harry Lewis in goal, we might have struggled with. You know, they had a lot of corners last night. Doncaster always seems to have a lot of corners against us, but especially last night, I think they must have been close to double figures, if not actually get into that. They had a lot of free kicks as well, and he was coming out, claiming them, punching them, and just being dominant, which is what you like to see. And there was a save that I remember specifically in the second half where, I don't know if it was a free kick or a corner, which was cleared to the edge of the box, and it was, again, Doncaster's left back, the number 3, I think his name's Maxwell, who got the strike on the half volley. It was a beautiful strike. It's flying in to the back of the net, and Walker does just about enough to tip it over the bar. The strike was amazing, but the save was equally as good. The one disappointment for me with Sam Walker was his distribution. I feel like a lot of his kicks weren't getting far enough up the pitch, which is not really something we've seen from Sam Walker. Normally his distribution does go, you know, really hard, really deep, and sometimes he overhits it, but last night I thought his distribution wasn't particularly great, and on another day it could have potentially cost us, because there are a few half-slice clearances when the ball was getting passed back to him. Everything he was clearing first time, and on our pitch it could have taken a dodgy bobble, and you never really know with them ones, but he did shank a few into the crowd, which is disappointing. You know, especially in that first 15 or 20 minutes, pretty much every ball that went up in the air, we were heading out for throw-ins and stuff, and again, that really slowed the pace of the game down. The referee didn't help, and it was a very, very stop-start game. But like I say, not many players came away from that game with any real credit. Sam Walker, I would say, was probably one of the very few who did. He was slightly above average for me. It was disappointing for him not to keep another clean sheet. It would have been a record for him to keep 5 league clean sheets in a row. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Is the goal offside? Again, that is a massive debate. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. But Sam Walker, on the whole, I thought, again, had another positive impact, and I wouldn't say he's getting better week on week, because I don't think yesterday he was as good as what he has been, but he didn't really, again, have much to do, if we're honest. It's just disappointing that he was unable to save their goal, and, you know, if he had done that, it's an extra 2 points, and we're a little bit closer to playoffs. But again, if my nan had wheels, she would have been a bicycle, that sort of thing, isn't it? So Sam Walker, overall, pretty solid performance, and apart from the distribution, I thought I had a really, really good game, so I've gone with a green box for him. And we'll move on then to the final box of today's video. It is a red box again, this time for Graham Alexander. I thought the team selection was really weird. The tactics, again, really, really frustrating. And Alexander, again, comes out in his post-match interview and he says everything that you want to hear. You know, I completely agree what he says, but it seems to be a little bit of a recurring theme where Alexander's saying the right thing, but then he's not changing it either during the game or before the game. His team selection was really, really strange. We had two left wing backs who play there naturally on the bench, but instead we shoehorned a central midfielder in at left wing back to then play a winger in central midfield. And I didn't really understand it. I know Smallwood was suspended, but the easy thing to do would have been to start Richards, who, when he's fit, has been very good at left wing back, have McDonald and Gilead in central midfield, and keep Adore in the position where he's been producing in over the last couple of weeks. It didn't really make sense why Wright just suddenly got the start. I'm not really too sure why. There might be some sort of loan clause in there where, because he's obviously on loan coming from a championship club, where if he doesn't play, we have to pay them a little bit more money. But Wright hasn't done enough for me to warrant a start in the limited minutes that he has had. I don't think he was too bad off the bench against Wycombe, but his finishing has been quite poor. And I didn't really understand why Wright was the right selection, if I'm honest with you. I would have much rather seen someone like Smith start in the wide forward area. I don't think Smith is good enough to play as the lone striker, but I think as that inside forward, that could be a really good position for him. But again, the tactics, I'm not really too sure what they are, apart from hit the ball up to Andy Cook, hope that he wins it, even though he's not really a target man. Don't get me wrong, he's good heading the ball inside the penalty area, but his overall link-up play in terms of heading it isn't particularly great. And while he had some good opportunities to bring it down by his chest, I thought Richard would use the experience very well and marshalled Cook through the game. I think Alexander was up by the media sort of box in the first half, and then in the second half he was actually down on the touchline again, which has been a while since he's actually been down on the touchline at Valley Parade. And I feel like the first half was very flat. We didn't really create much, to be honest with you. The second half was slightly better. It's a brilliant goal that we score. It's almost something out of nothing. Chapman does really well to beat Sterry down our left hand side. He gets a low ball into the box. It's an excellent finish from Tyler Smith. Should the goalkeeper save it? Yes. I think he pulls his arms away because he thinks it's going over the bar, which makes it an even better finish from Tyler Smith. I feel like the substitutions actually came at a positive time. You know, it's rare we see Alexander make substitutions on the hour mark. He normally leaves it until around the 70th, 75th minute, and then the subs don't really have much time to get into the game. But I don't begrudge the substitutions. I just feel like the setup from the game was wrong. I feel like the tactics again were wrong. I understand our pitch is poor, and again, we mentioned it a few times, I'm not asking us to play out from the back, because on our pitch with the players we've got, I don't think it would particularly work, if I'm honest with you. Doncaster could have easily put a press on for us, but we were happy for them just to kind of just have the ball, really. You know, when their goalkeeper had it, he was deciding whether he wanted to pass to the right centre-half or the left centre-half, and we weren't really pressing, and that's not something we've seen under Graham Alexander. I don't know if that was a specific tactic, but when we pressed Doncaster, they actually looked quite poor on the ball, but we just allowed them far too much time to really play through us, and I feel like we did get our press slightly wrong yesterday. Overall, the performance was just very, very flat. You didn't really have much to get behind as a fan base. You know, when we were attacking, and the rare few opportunities we had, you know, the fan base were getting behind that, and, you know, there was chanting, and I feel like you have to play at 110% and be creating chances to get the fans on side, and having our fans on side is such a massive boost for us. But when you're playing a flat performance, you're not really doing much, we're not really creating much, not really having much pressure on their goal, and I thought their goalkeeper was pretty poor defensively. They looked at 6s and 7s. The few times we actually went at them, they looked a little bit shaky, and I feel like we could have scored more, but we just didn't really do it often enough. We didn't really have that intensity to do it, and I feel like we massively missed Richie Smallwood in the centre of that midfield to maybe put in a hard tackle and liven them up a bit. But again, the referee completely ruined the game by constantly blowing for free kicks, giving stupid yellow cards. Both managers got booked, and it looked really, really pathetic. I feel like McCann wasn't actually going to originally get booked by the referee. It looks like McCann asks a question to the referee and he gets booked for it, which again, I don't really understand. Alexander got a booking for sarcasm. I mean, really, if you're not shouting or swearing or throwing your arms around at the referee, is sarcasm really the end of the world? I just feel like it's very, very pathetic. And the referee, again, we're coming back onto him. He had an absolute nightmare, didn't he, yesterday? I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 80 likes, as I said at the start of today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We're on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed. If you haven't already, with that post notification bell on, it's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below your thoughts on our 6 talking points from today's video. Again, apologies there was no guest, but hopefully we should have one back for Saturday's 6 things that we learned, which will be coming out on Sunday. Lots of content coming out this month because we've got a lot of football matches to play. The Notts County match is being rearranged for a week on Tuesday. Next Tuesday we've got Forest Green as well, so lots of Saturday, Tuesday content coming up. There'll probably be a video pretty much every day apart from Fridays, where I might get some tier 3 channel channel member exclusive videos out. Go check out the channel membership scheme if you haven't already. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the Accrington Stanley away match preview. Peace.